Hello, my bookish darlings, or should I say hello, my beautifully bookish darlings, because I am once again going to look at another booktuber and see how they have risen through time and become so popular, because I want to know their secret. Today we are going to look at beautifully bookish Bethany. She is a fantastic booktuber with a fantastic personality who has carved her way into being one of the top creators in the booktube niche. I personally love her roundtables when she has other booktubers on to discuss certain topics. And you may be asking what roundtables she has invited me to. Who am I? I am the booktube goddess, the #1 drag queen booktuber on YouTube. I just want to jump right into it and look at Bethany's channel, so let's do that together. As you can see, she has a very professional looking front page. What I think is fascinating is instead of a little avatar of the face, she has what looks to be a graphic with the name Beautifully Bookish Bethany. And she has a cartoon-like banner, new videos every week. Her featured video is evangelical romance. Not a particular topic that I am normally drawn to. But she has over 14,000 subscribers. Again, this is enormous in the booktube niche. What I want to do is time travel back to the beginning and see how she started her beautifully bookish adventures. Going through her list of videos, I am going to sort, of course, by oldest. Oh my. These look different than what we usually see with Bethany. And her very first video, at least that she has showing, is everyday mom makeup tutorial. She was a beauty guru. Maybe I need to take some lessons. And just at a quick glance, it does appear that she has focused on mommy vlogging. And there are makeup tutorials, mommy must-haves, but the fourth video is a book. There looks like there are book videos mixed up in these mommy vlogs. And her booktube newbie tag was 4 years ago. But I'm kind of curious, going back to this 5-year mark, what her first book video was like. Real quick, I want to say her first video, if this is her first video, 291 views is very, very good for a first video. But let's take a look at exciting sequels and book recommendations when she was a mommy vlogger 5 years ago. Oh, I don't even recognize this person, but I see the head of a child. So she wasn't lying about the mommy part.
Hey book nerds, welcome back to my channel. This little guy decided he wanted to hang out with Mama today, so he's going to be doing this book video with me. If you're new, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Today I wanted to talk to you about some of the upcoming books that I'm most excited about. And some of these are coming out this year, some of them aren't coming out till next year, but...
Now I assume she's filming this on a phone by the quality of the audio and the video, and she doesn't seem to be as comfortable as, say, I am, or as Bethany currently is while filming a video. But let's move on.
One of them I even have an arc for, which I'm super excited about.
For sequels.
So let's get started. Today we're going to talk about my 4 top sequels or next in series books that I am really excited about and want to share with you guys. So the first one I want to share with you is the sequel to this book. This is called Shadow Shaper by Daniel Jose Older.
I've not heard of it.
It's really awesome. This is the one that I have an arc for. Thank you, BookCon, Shadow House Fall. So I'm really excited to get to read that. The first book, Shadow Shaper, follows this character, Sierra Santiago, who is a young teenage woman of color who lives in Brooklyn. It's a super fun urban fantasy.
Oh, the perils.
Hey guys, so I'm back. Little one decided to fall asleep.
I love her necklace,
just
too.
me this time. So I was talking about this awesome book, Shadow Shaper by Daniel Jose Older. Seriously, guys, pick it up, check it out. I'm loving the fact that we're starting to get more diversity in YA Lit, which is something we haven't seen before. And the book...
I think that's the first time she said it was YA. I was kind of curious myself.
Book is just a great, fun urban fantasy, and the thing I love about it is you've got these characters who are primarily people of color living in Brooklyn who talk the way that you would think that they would probably be talking. And I've been to a panel before with the author of this book, and the thing that he said, which I think is so true, is there's a...
Is there construction noise in the background? Also, she said what the plot is. I don't know what this book is about.
A lot of kids who growing up like him who read these books and said, okay, where are the people who look like me, who sound like me, where are the characters I can relate to? And they just didn't exist. And so serious props to some of these publishers like Penguin Teen for publishing Shadow Shaper and other more diverse books start to include more diverse characters. It's such an important thing. So the next book I want to talk about is Carve the Mark. This is a new series by Veronica Roth. I loved this first book. I liked the divergence.
I have not read anything by Veronica Roth. I assume this is another YA. I wonder if she primarily, at least at this time, reads YA.
Series, but Carve the Mark is awesome. It's this hybrid sci-fi fantasy, kind of a fantasy in space sort of story. Really rich world building, great characters, and I'm really looking forward to the sequel, which unfortunately I think is not coming out till next year or late this year, but it's going to be a while. It was actually pretty cool. I got to go to the book launch event for this book, which was really cool because I got to briefly meet Veronica Roth, hear her talk about the book, and of course get it signed and personalized, which was super exciting. I highly recommend checking out this book if you haven't yet. The sequel I'm really looking forward to. The next book I want to talk about is actually a debut novel.
Ooh.
It's called The Thousandth Floor by Catherine McGee. And the sequel is coming out, I think, the end of this year, if I'm not mistaken. This book is really great, really awesome for a debut novel and creative. It's set in a futuristic New York, deals with climate issues, with race and class issues, with drug addiction, with depression and trying to fit in. And it's just a really great, engaging story that pulls you in and doesn't let you go until you reach the end, and then you're like, no, I want to read the sequel. When is it coming out? So thankfully the sequel is coming out in a few months.
I love seeing the enthusiasm of some booktubers when describing a book. However, me personally, I would like to hear a little bit about the plot and the characters, etc. But she is adorable.
But if you haven't checked it out, check out The Thousandth Floor by Catherine McGee. Really great book. Okay, the final book I want to talk about is actually going to be the 4th book in a series. I guess the beginning of a new trilogy in this world, which I'm excited about. I loved the original trilogy and thought that that was it. But this is the School for Good and Evil series, and this is by...
I believe this is considered middle grade, but it could be considered YA. Well, it probably is considered YA, but it is a fantastic... I haven't only read the first book, but it is a fantastic story about a good witch and an evil witch. And they go to this magic school and find out they are each placed in the wrong or opposite school. They thought they were going to the school of good or the school of evil. First book is a lot of fun. Highly recommend. There are some issues with it, in my opinion. The author doesn't seem to be comfortable pacing fight scenes, in my opinion. I think the book could have been a little bit shorter, but let's see what Bethany has to say.
Soman Chainani, and again, this was cool. I got to meet him at BookCon and get this one signed, which was awesome. He was just so sweet and super cute and just a really nice guy. Again, these books are fantastic. They're such a great story. They deal with a lot of important issues in a way that I think is accessible to younger readers. The first trilogy is marketed to the 8 to 12 range, but I think anybody could probably enjoy them, and it's the kind of thing that I'll probably want to read with my kids when they get to be a little.
The reason why I thought it might be YA is because there is sort of a romantic subplot in it, and usually romance subplots are targeted for YA because that is the age where hormones are surging and we get romantic storytelling. Whereas in middle grade, the focus is on friendships. That's why I was wondering if it might have been YA, but yes, it is middle grade.
Bit older, but the new trilogy, book 4, is coming out in September. I actually have this awesome little sneak peek. It's going to be called The School for Good and Evil Quests for Glory, on sale September 19th. So I really enjoyed.
Why is this so thin? Did she tell us? I might have not have been paying attention, but that is just a me problem.
The sneak peek. So thank you to HarperCollins.
Oh, sneak peek. Maybe it's the first chapter or something.
For that. It sounds like a really fun story. Again, they're growing up a little bit in this, the main characters, so this one is probably going to be targeted more at a teen, young adult audience. It seems like it's going to be dealing with some really great issues to talk about, like communication in relationships and finding your purpose and your identity.
Okay, I'm going to stop it here. I think it's interesting she doesn't talk about the plots of these books, but more of how she feels about them. And perhaps that is enough for her audience to pick up the recommendation. But I want to see her evolution as a booktuber. Going back to her videos, sorted by oldest first, we see she began her channel 5 years ago, and her newbie tag was 4 years ago. And I assume that's when she focused more on booktube. And it looks like her videos were hit or miss. Some were 600 views, which is fantastic, followed by 17 views, which is about where my channel is, followed by 17 views, followed by 44, 58, 90. It's like what my channel is after 3 years. But she does seem to break out once in a while in her videos, 300, 200. Again, very good views for booktube. But let's go up in time to see when she really started to take off. Okay, I want to search for 3 years ago, see what the video views were around then. We have a breakout video, 7.9K. New York City's best used bookstores. I bet that took a while to film. But let's keep going. Where's the 3-year mark? I know it must be here somewhere. She did a lot of videos. I wonder if she was doing 3 a week, because there are a lot of videos from 4 years ago. Okay, here's 3 years ago. 700 views, 500 views. Okay, this is where she is picking up steam. And let's try to find a good video around this time period. Let's look at her. Spinning Silver. This is a book I've read. You know, if you've been watching me, I'm a huge fan of Naomi Novik. I love the Tremor series. I think they got very repetitive towards the end until the last book that wrapped up the series. Love them. But Spinning Silver is one of her standalone fantasy books. I personally loved it. It's kind of a retelling or reimagining or a book inspired by Rumpelstiltskin. I am curious to hear her views from 3 years ago. She has 651 views, which is one of the higher view counts on her videos. Personally, for me, when I do individual book reviews, they go nowhere. I am curious to see how she has managed to capture the attention of her audience.
Hi guys, welcome back. So today I'm here with a quick book review of Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik. So I read this book in the month of July. I really liked it. I gave it 4.5 stars. I'm leaning towards even doing 5 stars, but I wanted to share it with you guys because I think there's a lot of really interesting things about this book and I wanted to chat about them with you. So Spinning Silver is kind of set in the same world as Uprooted. They are like cousins.
Uprooted is another wonderful book. By the way, I didn't realize how short this video was, which she said a quick video, under 4 minutes. So it is a very fast video. And the sound quality seems to have improved from the earlier videos we saw. And I think she's improved her makeup game. But let's continue.
I suppose, but you really don't need to read one to read the other. They definitely read as standalones.
Definitely standalone.
Spinning Silver is a very loose retelling of Rumpelstiltskin. I think if you liked Baron the Nightingale, you will probably like this. It has very similar vibes. It is beautifully written. It is atmospheric. It is whimsical. And she just does some really interesting things and has these wonderful female characters in this book. So Spinning Silver follows several different perspectives, but our main character is Miriam. Miriam is kind of like our Rumpelstiltskin, and Miriam is a Jewish young woman living in, I would say, Eastern Europe in the Tsar era. This is not like super historical, but like that's the basic.
I see.
And she takes up the money lending business as a way to provide for her family, who are quite poor. But all of the gold that she's earning catches the attention of the Starik, which are like these ice fairy people. So the Starik king comes and wants to take her as his bride and have her turn all of his silver to gold because they steal gold and they sometimes like kill and rape humans and whatnot. So there's kind of that element of the story. And then it also pulls in the storyline of this other young woman who is a noble who, through a variety of things, ends up married to the Tsar, who is a young man who is possessed by a demon. So yeah, there's a lot of like interesting things going on. It's very magical.
The relationship, for me, the relationship between Miriam and her family, and I believe her grandfather, is really fascinating as well, if you're interested in sort of familial drama set in a fantasy realm.
It can get quite dark. It's got these amazing female characters who are just these very strong women who put their people and their country or their family in front of themselves, in front of even love, and are willing to enter into marriages for the sake of what they think is really most important, which is not something that you always see women doing. So it's really great. It's also this really loving depiction of being a person of the Jewish faith and race during that kind of time period. And so the Jewish religion is a thread that is pretty deeply tied into portions of the story. It doesn't take over it, but it's intrinsic to a lot of things that happen in Miriam.
Now, I don't know if Bethany is Jewish or not, but I did have the thought while reading Spinning Silver, since the main Jewish family or a family of moneylenders, how that would play with some reactions. But apparently Bethany has some very positive things to say.
Story, and I loved it. I thought it was really beautifully done. And it's also interesting because I think that's something that you don't often see. I think Judaism is not a faith that you often see depicted, especially in such positive terms. And it's interesting to me that she has the main character be this Jewish young woman who is a moneylender, and it deals with it does a really interesting job of questioning these issues of the way that we think about wealth and money and family and love and power. It's like a really nuanced book. Like, maybe it deserved 5 stars. I gave it 4.5 partly because For me, the pacing was a little bit off. The later part of the book dragged a little bit. Like, I thought it was a little bit slow. But honestly, maybe I should change my rating to 5 stars because it is a beautiful book. It's beautifully written. It's nuanced. It's got these amazing characters, this incredible world. So yeah, highly recommend it. Definitely go check it out if this sounds all up your alley. Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik. Talk to me in the comments down below. Let me know your thoughts if you have read this or if you plan on reading it. I would love to hear what you guys think.
So that was Bethany's review of Spinning Silver. I actually couldn't agree more. By the way, if you're interested in another fantasy book with Judaism at the core, I strongly suggest The Golem and the Genie. Let's move on her booktube journey. This was 3 years ago. I think we're probably going to jump to her most recent videos, but her thumbnails are okay, I guess. I do like the colorful blocks that make her titles pop out. Unfortunately for me, the font is too small for me to read, but I have terrible eyesight. Anyway, moving on. It's mostly screenshots of her against, it looks like, either a bookshelf or some artwork, perhaps. Here we see she's trying some different things with the thumbnails. I like these better because they make the font large enough that I can read them. Why teens should read. Of course, that's cut off by the time mark. And her videos are pretty short, with some exceptions. There's one over 30 minutes. And here I see 3 years ago, she has started one of her round table videos where she invites other booktubers to join in. Those are wonderful, by the way, if you have a chance to see one. But moving on, Red, White, and Royal Blue, the book that everyone loved except me because somehow romance and I do not get along. Don't ask why. Anyway, I like these thumbnails more. Moving on. Love her expressions. I think we should just jump to the most recent. So let me sort by the most recent. Okay, newest videos first. We have is this a TikTok? I personally have tried doing the TikTok booktube thing and it just does not work for me at all. Maybe because I'm not really a user of TikTok, so I don't get it. But let's see her TikTok. Delilah Green Doesn't Care. Oh, it's a book review.
Pride Month may be over, but that doesn't mean we have to stop reading queer books. Let me gush about this romance I just finished, Delilah Green Doesn't Care by Ashley Herring Blake. I freaking loved this so much. I mean, I knew based on the cover I would probably enjoy it, but it literally made me tear up, and I don't usually tear up in books. It was so good. One of my favorite romances I've read this year. This follows a woman who is a photographer who is going home to be the photographer for her sister's wedding. Her sister, who she doesn't necessarily get along with great, and she ends up falling for her sister's best friend. There is drama and humor, and it's sexy. I loved it so much. Go read it. Look, there's a sequel coming out soon too. Pride Month may be over.
Okay, that was delightful. I do want to point out how she's talking about the plot of the book rather than just her feelings about it, like we saw in the very first video. And it's more, I guess, taking a page out of the, not literally, but taking how she did the Naomi Novik book in order to describe the plot in the book and link that with her feelings. Anyway, let's look at one of her real booktube videos. Can we trust books in LALA? I did a LALA spotlight some time ago. I'll put a link up here if you are interested. Otherwise, let's see. We'll just partially look at this video because it's quite long and this video has gone on long enough. Can we trust books and LALA? Sounds like some booktube drama about to happen.
Hi friends, welcome to Beautifully Bookish Bethany. Today's video is all about
right off the start, listen to the sound quality, and the video quality is also quite good. And we love how the camera angles down on you because we do the same.
Investigating whether we can really trust Kayla from Books and LALA when she gives us book recommendations. Are they actually good books? Can we trust her reviews?
Good question.
This is
she
the
has a
second video in a
Patreon.
vlog series where I read books that I've purchased because of other booktubers to see if we can really trust their reviews, trust their taste in books.
I see she has Mad Ship by Robin Hobb behind her. As you know, Robin Hobb is one of my favorite authors of all time. Love the Elderling saga. But talking about Books and LALA, I really do like her book reviews, and they're very pithy and sometimes very short, especially when she does a lot at once. So I am curious to see which ones that Bethany has picked up.
If you haven't seen the first one where I read books I read because of Angela over at Literature Science Alliance, I will link that up above. But today's video is all about books I bought because of Kayla over at Books and LALA. I am going to be reading 3 books for this video that I purchased because of seeing Kayla's reviews. The first one is Bunny by Mona Awad.
I have not read it.
I know that this...
I have heard a lot of good things about this, so I expect... It looks like a small book. That's interesting. But I expect you'll like it just from what people have already told me about Bunny.
It is a weird book, and I have heard really mixed things. People seem to really be into this or really not like it or get it. Kayla loved it, and sometimes we have crossover in weird books that we like, so I was curious.
I've heard mostly positive.
We'll so it says it's about a scholarship student in a graduate fiction writing cohort at an elite university in New England, and there's a clique of saccharine yet sinister rich girls who all call each other Bunny and seem to move and speak as one, and then they invite her to join them. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. The next book is a novella from an author I have read other things from and have really liked, but I actually purchased this before reading those other books. This is The Empress of Salt and Fortune by Nevo. This has actually been on my TBR for quite a while.
Yes, I almost picked that book for Shelve It or Shove It. I have recently read a Nevo book, Siren Queen, about an Asian actress in the 50s when Hollywood is run with lots of dark magic coursing through it, and how she became a star, even though Asian actresses at the time were just playing maids and laundresses. It was a 3-star book for me. I didn't think the plot was very evident, and the magic system or world building just seemed to have no rhyme or reason. But I still may read something else by Nevo. Let's hear about Empress of Salt and Fortune.
But I bought it after seeing Kayla just rave about it, and I feel like I'm probably going to love this because I have loved other things that I've read from Nevo since picking this up. This one is not very long. It's a little novella saying it's both feminist and high fantasy. I think it's like storytelling, fable things. I don't really know, honestly, but I've heard the writing is beautiful. I've been wanting to read this for a while, and this seemed like a good opportunity. And then the final book is one I'm actually currently reading. This is Reprieve by James Hahn Matson.
Don't know it.
I had never heard of this book before seeing it on one of Lala's vlogs, and it sounded right up my alley, so I almost immediately went out and bought it. It says it's a chilling and blisteringly relevant literary novel of social horror centered around a brutal killing that takes place in a full-contact haunted escape room, a provocative exploration of capitalism, hate politics, racial fetishism, and our obsession with fear as entertainment. So I'm like 80-something pages in, and so far I am really liking it. It hasn't gotten so much to the horror thing, but it's sort of building up to it. What I know so far is there's this like extreme haunted house in Nebraska, and somebody died, and so we're getting interspersed these clippings from the trial asking...
I'll be honest, as much as I love the occasional horror novel, this one just doesn't seem to intrigue me, not like Bunny did, or the Nevo novella.
The people people who were in the room about what happened and why they didn't stop it or why they thought it was just part of the experience. And then we're getting the backstory of different characters, and the characters are really interesting. So I'm super curious to see where this goes. The first one is of a Black teen girl in high school who has recently lost her father due to a car accident, and her mom are going to be moving to Nebraska. She's really into horror movies and she doesn't want to move, but I think she's somehow going to be involved, Kendra. Then we have a gay boy from Thailand who is sort of obsessed with his English teacher, his like American English teacher, and I think is going to try to go to America to track him down. So that could be interesting. And then the last one I've read so far is this hotel manager who lives in Nebraska who starts becoming buddies with the owner of this haunted house and kind of descends into misogyny and ends up losing his wonderful relationship with his girlfriend as a result and starts believing really awful things about women and gender roles and stuff like that. So it's really interesting. I wouldn't call it horror so much so far, but I can see how maybe it'll get to it. The next part I'm getting into I think is going to be about the actual haunted house.
Now, it's interesting because the more she talked about it, especially when she described the Thai character, the gay boy who is stalking his English teacher, I actually knew someone like that from Thailand. So now I am more interested in this, although I probably will not pick it up.
So far, I'm enjoying it, so we'll see where this goes. So I'll be reading these books over the next few days. I'll check in and let you know what I think, and we'll figure out if we can really trust Kayla from Books and LALA. So I'm about 150 pages in, and honestly, this haunted house sounds awful and horrifying and nothing I would ever in my life ever do. Like, people are genuinely harmed by it, like electrocuted. I mean, they're not like killed, but still, and like blood on the, it just sounds like my worst nightmare basically. But the book is interesting. I am continuing to enjoy it. I just finished getting stuff together for some videos I need to put up this week, and I need to go eat lunch. It is already 1 o'clock. And I was thinking, because we're reading books recommended by Kayla, why not have lunch like Kayla? You might know that Kayla is
I really appreciate how she's coming on to discuss her reading journey while wearing glasses and no makeup. It's because before we see her all made up, and now she is just letting us into her life as she is actually reading the novels.
A vegetarian, so I am gonna go try out a vegan restaurant in my neighborhood, and I'll take you along with me. I'm also thinking I'll bring along Empress of Salt and Fortune and start that during lunch. So let's see how this goes.
Okay, I'm going to skip ahead a bit because this is making me hungry. Okay, I got to the point where she is talking about the Empress of Salt and Fortune. And I am curious because I felt the full-length Nevo novel, the Siren Queen, didn't feel like there was enough plot, at least for me. And it was kind of a lesbian romance, so maybe it was more of a romance book than a fantasy book. But on a shorter novella length, you don't need that much plot. So let's see what Bethany has to say.
Empress of Salt and Fortune, and it's excellent. I love Nevo's writing so much. And this is an interesting book because it's got a story it's telling, but it also has this framing device, and I really like the way that it's using it. The story itself is about this woman who was this notorious empress who was a political bride, and kind of following her story from the perspective of a servant girl who knew her through her life. The framing device is that she has died, there's a new empress about to be crowned, and Cleric Chi is part of this order that are historians and record keepers, and so they have traveled to the estate where the Empress lived while she was in exile, and while there has met Rabbit, who is this kind of handmaiden servant girl who knew the Empress, and is spending a few days there cataloging the items in the house that belong to the Empress and hearing the stories related to those items from Rabbit. That's kind of the way that this is framed. And it's so good. It's beautiful. I think it's so interesting using objects as the jumping off point for stories. So most of the chapters begin with just basic information about these objects, almost like you would see in a museum listing or something. But then one of the objects will be a core piece of the story or the part of the story that's being told in that chapter. I just love it. Nevo's writing is lyrical and beautiful. I'm flying through this. I don't think it's going to take me long to finish it. Thoroughly enjoying it.
By the way, I absolutely agree that the writing itself on a prose level that Nevo produces is indeed beautiful, almost literary. But again, for me in Siren Queen, I didn't feel there was a plot there. In fact, I didn't feel there was much of a complication. There wasn't really any stakes that seemed to impel the story forward. Anyway, I'm going to jump ahead one more time and let's see if we can find the conclusion to Bethany's views on Nevo's novella.
At this for a while, but I did finish both of these books, which is very exciting, so let's talk about them. I finished reading Empress of Salt and Fortune, and I really liked it. I enjoy Nevo's writing. I don't know why, but for some reason I was expecting something more at the end, and that's maybe on me because I feel like I've heard people talk about this where they got to the end and they just had this big emotional reaction. And like there is a little bit of a revelation twist, I guess you could say, towards the end, which was interesting. I just generally like Nevo's writing, and I thought the story was good, was compelling, but it wasn't something where I was like, oh my God, I have so many big feelings and this is a new favorite book for me. So I don't know what that is. Maybe it just hits people differently. Maybe my expectations were too high, but I definitely liked this. It's like a 4.5 star read for me. Not 5 stars, not a new favorite, but very strong for sure. And I would continue on with the series. I think it's a cool concept, having this cleric sort of collecting stories from different places about people. I will say I'm impressed how much story is compressed into not a lot of pages in this. It's interesting, and you really get the entire life of this Empress in a lot of ways. And thematically, what I think is interesting about it is the ways that...
Okay, my darlings, I'm just going to cut it off here. I'll have links to all the videos that we looked at below so you can see them in their entirety, and you could find out if Bethany can trust books and LALA. As far as Bethany's channel goes, I think she is the booktuber that most of us want to be. She's had slow and steady growth. She seems to be very well respected in the at least booktube community, if not the entire bookish community. I think her tastes run more towards the speculative fiction side of things, which I just love. And like I said before, her roundtable discussions where she invites other booktubers are my favorites, even though she never invites me. But I am nobody, so I completely understand. I highly recommend checking out Bethany's channel, especially if you're a booktuber, want to see how it's done. She even does well where many of us do not by doing single book reviews. I know there are other booktubers out there that do it, fit to be read as one, but certainly Bethany seems to be bucking the trend of having book reviews tank. Not that I would know what that feels like. But most of all, I believe that Bethany's channel is thriving just on the basis of personality. She seems to be very relatable, very open, very honest, and I can understand why people watch her. I want to know what you think of Bethany, and if you watch her channel, what makes you keep coming back? If you don't follow Bethany, I highly suggest you subscribe to her channel. And by the way, if you're not subscribed to my channel, what are you even doing here? Hurry up and give this video a thumbs up and subscribe. Until we meet again, may all the books you read be blessed.